Hey everybody, it's Rob here. So I've been getting a lot of questions about what stats to roll, what I should look out for my items if I'm playing a Barbarian. And today I want to share with you my thoughts and what I look out for on my gear, and also what pieces I potentially want to keep for testing other Barbarian builds and just testing the class and mechanics in general. So let's get into it. I have a full sheet that I made right here. You can find it also in the video description below. That basically lists every slot, the aspect or the unique that you want there, and the stat priorities that I think are pretty good at the moment. But keep in mind, as things develop and things change, we will figure out more stuff. There will potentially be more nerfs or hotfixes. That this is an ever-evolving process, and this is not final by any means yet. This is just my opinion right now, and this might change. I will do my best to keep the sheet as up to date as possible. But yeah, let's get into it. So first of all, we start with the gloves. I have all the offensive ones listed up here because that was kind of like the bread and butter of your build. So on the glove slot, obviously we take gores. This has been nerfed slightly, but it's still very strong, unique gloves that you can have. And before, or if you don't have gores or you want to play a different setup, what you want on your gloves is whirlwind ranks. For sure, that's the #1 priority, because it basically gives you 40% increased whirlwind damage. Crit chance, because it's a super important stat, and we have a lot of crit damage on our build. And then on the next we want like lucky hit. I guess we could add here as well. Depends, it has very good potential and synergy with your vulnerable procs. So here for the pressure point, we could go for some lucky hit. Gores has it anyways. And I think I have some very strong bracer here. Like, this is how they could look if you don't have gores. This is a very good roll. I could roll the lucky hit chance higher. Dexterity gives even more crit chance, and is also required for the final Paragon board. You can see here, I barely hit it, the Havoc note here, with 30% extra crit damage and 10% physical damage. And yeah, you need a lot of dex for that. So if you don't have gores, you can use a pair that looks something like this. On to the next piece, we have Amulet. Here we put our Limitless Rage. What's by far the most important stat on an Amulet is the cooldown reduction. You can see here, this was my Amulet. So we almost have maximum cooldown reduction roll. We have +3 ranks to all defensive skills. This one boosts our challenging shout. And it also boosts our rallying cry. You can see here I'm getting a rank contribution. I have a slightly different Amulet right now here, because it also gives me damage reduction, which I need. Edgemaster is in there. And it basically bumps our challenging shout from 48 to 54 damage reduction. And it bumps our rallying cry from 56 to 68. So very good, these defensive skills. And then ideally, like if you get super lucky, and this is very unlikely, you also want to have the Fury cost reduction. I had it here on this Amulet, but yeah, it's very hard to get. And then a defensive stat usually. You can also choose some offensive stat, but I prefer to go with the defensive one, like fortify damage reduction, or you know, it's just a bunch of useful stats, but I think this one is the best, because you already have a lot of fortify damage reduction and it stacks up very nicely. On a two-hander, well, obviously you want the Grandfather, but as we have not found that yet, or it has not dropped yet, it's the same for the Helm later with the Harlequin's Crest of the Shaco. It might not even exist yet, guys, so we don't know, but I can't recommend this Grandfather because nobody has found it. But what you definitely want on your weapons is, like, this goes for two-hander and one-hander. Probably something like this might be best in slot. I'm not sure about the all stats, but in general, you always want crit base on the swords if you can. Obviously on the bludgeoning weapon you can't, but where you can choose sword base for extra crit damage. And then implicit crit damage and also crit damage roll is very important. Vulnerable damage because it's a separate multiplier. You want main stat because it's also a separate multiplier. And then you can take one of these additive damages here. I think it's even better than this one. So you want probably close is the best because you will always be close and it's kind of unconditional. Core is also very good, but for example doesn't work for your gore explosion. So it's only the second best stat. And then bleed is also decent, but it has a lower range on the weapons. So you can see here, let me see if I can find an example in game. I have a lot of weapons. So bleed cannot roll as high as the other stats, for example. So that's a big downgrade here, and you definitely want closed and core. It can just roll higher. You see, for example, here damage while berserking. We will be berserking a lot, but it just has a lower roll. And bleed is the same in comparison to, you see here, 23 damage to close enemies, but only a maximum, or 23.5, but only a maximum of 14 damage while berserking. And obviously, berserking is something we don't always have, but we are always close to enemies, so it's a no-brainer. It's higher value. It's all additive, but it's still higher value, and it's not as or the condition is not as hard to meet. So this is my priority for the weapons, like vulnerable over crit damage, over closed, over core, over bleed, over slow. And main stat as a separate multiplier depends if you need it for your Paragon boards and stuff, but I think it's a very good stat to have as well. So I think before I would choose bleed damage on the weapon, I would rather choose main stat, or all stats for that matter, to just get all the Paragon boards. And that's basically the same for all the weapons, like it's the same stat priority, and I hope that really helps. On the rings, so I've actually found in the previous version like a best in slot ring in my opinion. This is how it would look like. So it has crit, because we will be critting all the time. And then it has resource generation. And this is probably the most important stat, the resource generation, because I see a lot of people that ask me, like, Rob, how do you keep up your fury that easy? And this is really what does the trick. The resource generation here on these rings is a separate multiplier to your rallying cry, and just a separate multiplier to your resource generation in general. So this one literally gives you 18% more resource generation. And you can have this on both rings for almost 40%. It's you have 40% more fury, basically. It's insane. And, well, the vulnerable damage here, obviously, separate multiplier, again, really good. If you're asking for the additive damage, this is also a roll. I think I have it right now, for example, on one of my rings. Like, these are how my rings look right now. So yeah, you can see here, I have, for example, here close damage. So this ring is already pretty decent, like max roll on the resource generation. I could roll this one. Close damage, pretty good, min roll, but, you know, still very good stat to have. Crit chance, decent roll, and obviously vulnerable damage. So this one is pretty good. But yeah, this is probably what the best in slot ring will look like in the end game. Let's make it smaller again. And yeah, on the other ring, it's the same. I'm gonna quickly show you, I forgot the current weapons I'm using. So I still have like slowed on some of them. But this weapon is already, you know, pretty good. It just has like slow damage, which should be close damage or main stat. Then here you see I'm missing vulnerable damage. Here I could roll it, but it's just so expensive. And here I'm missing vulnerable damage as well. And this weapon again is pretty good. Core, which is probably one of the best stats next to close, crit, vulnerable. Good rolls overall, for sure. And the aspects are also very good already. But always stuff to improve. On the boots, I focus fully on utility usually. So these are my current boots. My previous boots. Fury cost reduction, movement speed. The fury cost reduction, again, same on the amulet, really important. It's a separate multiplier to the resource generation, so you reduce your fury cost and then you basically add the fury generation, which is a super sick synergy. And then we have here the triple movement speed. We have the secondary movement speed after killing elite, and normal movement speed. And then as the last stat, you can have dex here, or main stat, or all stats. I think is very good. Berserking duration increase also helps, especially after the shout nerfs. I listed it here. Could be potentially pretty good. Where did the boots go? Okay, here they are. Make them smaller again. Again, this is all just a draft, guys, so I'm just like throwing stuff in here and sharing it as it comes. On the helm, obviously in endgame we want the Harlequin's crest, the Shaco, but this is not a variable. At the moment it seems nobody has been able to find it. So we really want CDR on this. It's probably the most important stat by far on the helm. Like, this is how my current helm looks like. Not ideal, but still pretty okay. I also have a bunch of helms that I saved, like just with cooldown reduction. Basically, every helm that has a high roll on cooldown reduction, I'm keeping. I think I even got like a 10% one somewhere. But yeah, these can be very, like, can have a lot of potential. Especially here, like, this is a helm I want to try with my Deathblow build, so it has main stat, Deathblow, cooldown reduction, and I can roll the cold rest to whatever I want. So really good helms. And yeah, I would suggest you guys keep every helm with cooldown reduction, because it's the most important stat by far. And then you can have damage reduction, max fury helps, main stat, all life, all stats, something like that. But definitely 9 or 8.5 plus CDR is really important. Then on the chest, it used to have like all these juicy stats from the previous version that has 4 ranks to challenging shout, shout skill, cooldown reduction. Unfortunately, that doesn't exist anymore, and not in the game anymore. And the chest needs to be changed anyways right now, so we don't really have that option anymore to stack this challenging shout ranks or to stack that cooldown, because we need the Rage of Haragath to reset our shouts now, because it got nerfed so heavily on the Bold Chieftain. I have the video explaining the new Barbarian stuff, how you can still achieve almost perma shouts, in the description below as well. But yeah, this is the unique chest that we really want to look out for. If we don't have this unique chest yet, it's still okay. You want ranks to challenging shout, damage reduction, basically damage for fortify generation. Could be a really good chest like that. Then we have the pants. Obviously, in the end game, this is also right now temerity, just to have your barrier up. I'm using this one, as you can see. But this one has really, really bad base stats. And obviously, you can't influence the stats on uniques, but this has been really bad. So the unique effect is insanely good. It basically leaves us barrier all the time. But the stats are really bad. And I'm considering right now, maybe we drop this for something else, just for, you know, an extra aspect. And we just don't care about the barrier for now. But if you do want to do this, or if you don't have this unique yet, you can look for damage after lead, ranks to Warcry to boost our damage even further, bleeding damage reduction while fortify, constant distant damage reduction, main stat, all stat, dex. Basic stuff. I think I have some kinds that I was using before. Let me see. No, these are this is like my chest that I have here saved up, basically. Damage reduction while fortify, really good, challenging shout. Yeah, my stash is a bit of a mess. I'm a big hoarder, but you see there's so much stuff to figure out and so much stuff to test that I have to save so many items, but there's so much limited space. Okay, I don't have them right now here. But they will look something like this, just without the kick. Like, you know, damage reduction from distance. This could be closed enemies. Then you have 3 ranks to Warcry instead of kick. I just want to try a kick build, so I keep these. And then the damage reduction by fortify and the dodge chance I can roll to anything that I want. So this is like potentially how your non-unique pants can look like. Again, this entire sheet is in the description. I hope this helped you out on your item progression and on your gear progression. If you find it helpful, leave a comment, subscribe. I have a lot more videos coming. I hope you guys enjoyed, and I will see you again soon. Rob, over and out. Bye bye.